Welcome to English Without Borders Thursday series of webinars, and we welcome all of our followers who are joining this webinar on Facebook platform or via Zoom. Please hurry up and join. And today we are very happy to host Ganjina Guzanfarova, and she will talk about the pros and cons of task-based instruction in English classes. Welcome, Ganjina, to our office, and we are very happy to meet you. And let me briefly introduce our speaker. Ganjina Guzanfarova is a highly experienced English teacher with over 20 years of teaching experience in Tajikistan. And she holds a degree in English language teaching from Tajik State Pedagogical University and has a deep understanding of the latest teaching methodologies. Ganjina is passionate about helping her students learn English and has a proven track record of success. She is also a certified interpreter and has experience working with medical students in the United States. In addition to her teaching experience, Ganjina has also participated in a number of professional development opportunities, including a course in English for academic purposes and a certificate program in communicative method in teaching English language for foreign students. So additionally, she's also a certified TKT and SALT teacher. So the audience, please use this opportunity to actively engage in this webinar and ask your questions to our speaker. And after her presentation, we will address those questions to our speaker. Thank you for joining, and over to you, Ganjina.
Hi everyone, I welcome you to the English Without Borders with the following session. What are we going to talk about today? That is the advantages and disadvantages of the task-based learning approach. So all of us know what is approach, and I think that doesn't need any explanations that discuss about that. Okay, so as I said before, all of you know that what is a task-based learning approach. So we know that we have a lot of approaches, and task-based learning is one of the approaches that we use while teaching the language. I mean, different languages, not only English. So all of these approaches, they have the advantages and disadvantages, as we know. And today we look at the advantages and disadvantages of the task-based learning approach. And saying the truth, I am for the advantages of the task-based learning approach. Now let's see, before starting my presentation and to look through the task-based learning approach, I have here the question, and you can look at this slide, and you can look at this slide, and there is the question. It is very easy. So the question is, what are those 3 good reasons to be a teacher?
Dear audience, you can unmute yourself or write your responses in the chat box. Even if you are joining via Facebook, no worries. Our speaker will be able to read your responses. So please, you can unmute yourself or write your answers in the chat box. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, let's look at the chart. There are answers here. Change someone's life by providing them with necessary skills. Yeah, of course, why not? What else? Can you please? Yeah, very good. Being teachers, staying always young, intelligent, and wise. Yeah, that's good. Others, if there are any other. So this is the question that I have here. I have the answer at the end of my, we can say, session. So we'll look at this answer there and we'll find out what are those 3 good reasons to be a teacher. So if I answer to the question, so that wouldn't be not interesting. But anyway, there are good reasons for me is being a teacher is giving knowledge. Let's see. So what are we going to talk now? Let's look at the main part of our lesson today and let's see what are we going to look at. So this is our today's agenda. Here we have introduction, we have the task-based learning. Then we look through there are 4 main criteria that we have for task-based learning approach. After that, we look at the main parts of the lesson plan. Then we look at the main tasks of the task-based learning approach framework. And at the end, of course, we have to find out what are the advantages and disadvantages of the task-based learning. So again, let's, can you please see? You have 2 photos of the lesson. Of course, that is an English lesson. And can you please find out the differences between these 2 photos? One is like a cartoon and another one is like taking a photo. And that is the task that I would to find out differences in these 2 English lesson classrooms. What is the difference there? What do you see? How the lesson is going and how it is going to become, not going to be, it's already conducted, but anyway, what is going on there? Can you please? So it is easy, I think, to find out the differences between these 2 photos. Okay. So I think if you see in both photos, and picture and photo, students are engaged, of course, thanks to the teacher. Okay. So one is teacher-centered, okay, and one is a learner-centered class. Okay, this is the main point. Yeah, very good. That is the main point that the first photo that we have here, kids are engaged. Wait, sorry. So kids are engaged with the game. And in the second photo that is drawn, it is like the teacher made the students to be engaged, even if they do not want it. So they're walking. Okay. So can we say that both are interactive? Oh, yeah. Gulizur, yes, very good, Gulizur. So the first one is interactive and the second one is just a lecture. Okay, we think that the teacher is delivering the lecture for students. Okay. Okay, very good. So let's see. In the first photo, the children, we can say they're engaged with the game. And of course, at the moment they're working, they're very busy. Yeah, collaborative learning versus authoritative learning, very good. So the students, what are they doing? I mean, the children, they're engaged with the game. While they're engaging with the game, so what do? They express their thoughts. Yeah, so they speak with each other, and they know that they have to find out what the words to speak with each other, to explain each other what is going on, the construction of the game. Yeah. Yeah. And in the second one, we have a teacher. There might be a grammar instruction. Yeah. And the students are listening and writing. Yeah. So as we found out before in the chart, there are in the first one, the children are engaged themselves, student-centered, and the second one is teacher-centered. Very good. So let's see what's the next one. So now let's see. Here we have the questions which we have to discuss again. What is your main purpose teaching the language? You see? So the first questions that we had before, there were the good reasons, yeah? But here we have the purpose, that is the difference. And the next one is, what's the difference between task and exercise? We give our students task and we give our students exercise to do. So what is the difference between them? And the last question is, which is more beneficial for learners? So task or exercise, because when we're working with our students, we always have to think about themselves, not about ourselves, yeah? So why, how, and when? So can you please write your answers maybe in the chat? So we'll look at them to discuss, to look through. So teachers, before going into the classroom, they have the main purpose, their aim, yes, why they go to the class. Okay. Communicate effectively in that language. Good. Yeah. So this is our main purpose. Yeah. To communicate. So always, so the main purpose is always to communicate. To enable people to travel and live in other countries. I mean, this is the purpose of the teacher to teach the language. Mm-hmm. Developing skills, very good. Muqaddam. Yeah, yeah, good. To teach them some subjects. Yeah, when, of course, when they learn the language from the very beginning, then they go to the specific learning of the language. Yes, so there we have specific learning of the language where we teach them through the language, the subjects, the specific subjects. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Nasiba. Students, so the main purpose of the language is to communicate, yeah? So can you please look at this, yeah, to motivate them to learn? Yeah, so the way of motivation can be different. Yeah, so sometimes it is hard to motivate students to learn the language if we can say someone made them to learn it, not themselves, and you have to motivate them to improve it. Okay, so let's see the next one, the difference between task or an exercise. So task we have and exercise we have. So there is a very, we can say, tiny and very, we can say, complicated difference between task and exercise. What it can be. While we have our lesson, so there we have tasks to do and exercises to do. There is difference between them. And what is that difference? So, can you please? Exercise is good. So to do a classroom with group, Shahla Rahmatova. Yeah. What's about the task? You mean that they are not both good to do in class, yeah? A task is a goal-oriented activity that requires learning the language skills to complete the task. Very good. Yeah. Exercise is more controlled activity that is designed to practice a specific language point. Perfect. So now let's see. We have an exercise we have. So what do you think? Which is more of this task and exercise, which is more beneficial for students? Which of them they do with pleasure, the task or the exercise? So remember yourself from school, yeah? So when you were a child, or when school child, when you were a student, so which one you did with pleasure? The task the teacher gave you, the exercise the teacher gave you? So, you know, the task is usually interesting, but they should be interrelated. Very good. Perfect. Now, what we have task and we have exercise. Yes. So the task is more interesting. Exercise is more interesting the task. Yes, it depends. Yeah. Sometimes the exercises are very interesting that they become more interesting than the task. Now, task is what? Task is something that you do in groups, individually, with your peers. There's something you create, something you do. An exercise, it is somehow controlled. It has mentioned in the beginning that exercise is controlled. Yes, for example, the teacher explained you the present simple tense, and according to that, you have to do the exercise, even if you do not want it. You have to do the exercise with the present simple tense, with the third person singular, with the plural form. So we have to identify what is we, and somehow it is controlled from the very beginning till the end. Yeah, but the task is not. So task is also controlled, but less control. Okay, you can use your own imagination there. Yes, though they can be different tasks. The best way to choose between tasks is to consider specific learning goals on the lesson. Very good. And the last one, which is more beneficial for learners, task or exercise? I think both. Dependable. And what do you think? task is a piece of work that has been given to someone or a job to do. Okay, good. So which one is beneficial for learners? Not for the teachers, but for learners. For example, the teacher, if the goal is to promote communicative learning, the task or better choice. If the goal is to practice specific language point, then yeah, perfect. Yeah, good. So it is dependable. Yeah. So both are beneficial for learners, task and exercises. Very good. Perfect. So we have a look through these questions, and we know the purpose of the teacher. So the task of the teacher, the main goal of the English teacher or English instructor is to what? Is to develop students' communicative language for those 4 skills, yes? Reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So this is the purpose of the teacher, and based on the skills, he or she teaches the language through tasks and exercises, and he knows that both are beneficial for the learners. What do they do, those teachers who are, you can say, the very clear purpose enter into the classroom? They give their students both tasks and exercises in order to receive or to achieve their goals. Good, thank you. Now, sometimes the task is given first in order to illustrate the grammar. Yeah, very good. Yeah, good. So now let's see the main point of our presentations. Why I gave or I brought here this second question, task and exercise, because our presentation is on task-based learning. Yes, not exercise-based learning. So that is. And we have found out that what is the difference between task and exercise. If there are any questions, you can please ask. Write on the chat. No questions? Okay, let's continue. So this is the task-based learning. So let's see, what is the task-based learning? Here I have the short introduction of the task-based learning approach. And what is it? It is the language. You can read it, but shortly I can say that task-based learning approach, it is the language where we bring the out language into. I mean, the language that students or learners speak out. So we make a kind of, through this approach, we bring this language into the classroom. And they freely use the language that they have to use or they do use in their everyday life. So the task-based learning is to increase learners' activities, and it lies on the teacher to produce and provide different tasks, you see, that will give the learners the opportunity to experiment spontaneously, individually, originally with the foreign language. So what do we have here? It means that when you're giving students the tasks on task-based learning, so in this approach, you do not force the students, but you give the students the task to work, to give them the opportunity to express their thoughts. And you may put them in groups, you may put them in peers. So they may work individually, but while they're working, so through their working, they start thinking on the language that they have to use when producing the language. So this is the task-based learning. And in task-based learning, here we have tasks are the activities where the target language is used for communicative purpose in order to achieve the outcome. So we have input and we have output. Yeah. So here's the same. So first the teacher, you can see first the teacher takes from learners, and only after that if there is a need to give them the additional, we can say, instruction or information if it was, if there wasn't enough information or it needs some kind of correction. So this is the task-based learning. And in the task-based learning, the students, I mean, the task of the teacher, as I have mentioned here, it lies on the teacher to bring into the classroom the task which are from the real life situations. So, and they're familiar for their learners. So it couldn't be that kind of task that the student or the learners, they do not have any information on that, and they do not know what to do, what to start with, yeah, and where to finish. So that is the task-based learning. So the task-based learning, it is the approach where we bring the outcome language into the classroom. So let's say we looked at the introduction of the task-based learning, and if there are no questions, let's see, there are 4 criteria that we have for task-based learning. So these 4 criteria are language teaching activity. So there is opinion or information gap. The next one is resources. And the 4th one is communicative outcome. So the first criteria is language teaching activity. It is the meaning. So communicative message, it means that students speak on the meaning on something. They do not focus on grammatical structure. Their task is just to bring the message, to communicate, to tell each other, even if there are some mistakes with the grammar, you see, or with the pronunciation. So the first task is of the task-based learning is to give the meaning of something. So the second one is the opinion or information gap. So opinion, it is when you give your opinion on something, so it is clear for everyone. And the information gap, for example, you have kind of information or some information, but I do not have information. So I help you to fill it in with the information that I have. So while I give, when there are a group of students work together, and they have to pick the information on specific topics that they are giving. So in this way, what do? They communicate with each other. So they fill in the gaps with the information that they have, and through this, they give the meaning. So the next one is resources. So what it means resources. So the resources can be linguistic and non-linguistic. Linguistic, when some students, they have the language of the target language, and the non-linguistic, when the students do not have the language of the target language. And the non-linguistic, when they do not have the language, what do? They may draw it, they may give the gesture, they may say it in their own language in order to use the dictionary or to look at the dictionary to translate it. So they may use their body language. So that is the non-linguistic language, as we know. So the linguistic, it is when you have maybe not the full vocabulary, but some vocabulary on the target language that the task is given. And the last one is the communicative outcome. It means when they work together, so while they're working together, what do? They communicate with each other. While communicating with each other, they bring all the gaps information that they have, so the resources that they have, and they may report it to the audience. So that's the communicative outcome. And the task-based learning approach maker, or it has kind of opportunity to develop students' communication skills. And the communication skills, not only in speaking, so the communication skill also in writing, reading, and listening. So if there are questions to look, let's see what we have. Can be used for different level of students? Yeah, it is. So from the very beginning, sometimes, not sometimes, but from the very beginning of teaching, me, myself, from my own experience, I thought the task-based learning approach is only for those levels that are higher, but it is okay to use for different level of students. And it is very, you can say, it is very important when the teacher knows that who is he working with and what is he doing and what is the task that he has to give to students, because he has to know that this is the beginner level. He has to give them something about maybe giving them pictures, something like that, to give them the task dealing with the seasons, maybe with the days of the week, some kind of exercises, tasks. So other questions on criteria? Or other questions? So let's look. What do we have here next? So, now let's see. Task-based learning, main parts of the lesson. What we have here? We have here pre-task. We have here main task of the lesson. So it has the lesson plan. We can't work without our lesson plan because we may confused, we may stuck. Yeah. So each teacher should have the lesson plan, even if it is not the whole, but you have to have your notes. So we divide the main parts of the lesson of the task-based learning into pre-task, main task of the lesson, planning, reporting it, then post-task analysis practices or activities when you look at them, and of course, giving feedback. Now let's see. Here I have a very short task for you, dear teachers, to look through. And can you please, so the task is on 2 slides. The first one is, these are the, you can say, parts of the plan of the task-based learning approach. So you can look at them, then I show you the next slide to look at the definitions. And your task is for this part of the lesson is, can you please from 1 to 6, the parts that you have here, give to them the definitions from the next slide that I'm showing you. So have a look at it. So the first one is introduction to the topic and tasks, planning, report, analysis, and practice. So now can you please look at the next slide to see what are the definitions and to match them. So these are the definitions. Can you please look at the definitions? So So, are there questions? So if you look through now, can you please see? So we have the pre-task, we have task cycle, and we have language focus. And if you have matched them with each other, numbers with their letters, so with their definitions, so here it is, you can have a look at it. The pre-task, so the pre-task, it is the task of the teacher, yes, as we know. So here we give the introduction to the topic and task, and what do we have there? So the task of the teacher, to give them the clear topic, yeah, to give them the necessary vocabulary, help students to understand their task, give them the clear instructions in order for them to prepare it, yeah. So students should know if it is kind of recording or other tasks that are they doing. So you have to give them kind of example, maybe if it is the first time. If it isn't the first time, so you have to give them clear instruction, of course, clear topic first, then the clear instruction, then give them some necessary vocabulary, and help them with the with doing the task. So the second phase of the task-based learning approach, that we have the task, then we have planning, report, which goes into the task cycle. It means the main part of the task-based learning approach. First is students, for task, students do the task in pairs or in small groups. Teacher monitor from a distance. It means that not going to their standing at the window and looking at them, no, or watching them, no, just monitoring if the students need any kind of help, not with the grammar structure, just with the ideas they need, yeah. So what they're planning, so while the students are planning their report, so they have to report it to the whole class. It can be orally or in written form, and you have to help them, yes. So what they decided or they find out to report to the class. So again, they work in their groups or in pairs. And after that, planning and finishing their planning. So here's the time for reporting it. And they present their reports to the class and exchange their written or oral results. And all these three parts are task cycles. So first is task, the second one is planning their task, and the third one is to report it to the class. And the last part is the language focus. It can be, of course, after reporting the task that you have given to your students, and there you analyze it or to look through it, and then you practice again. So while analyzing it, students examine and discuss specific features of the text, of the transcript, of the recording, if there was kind of recording. So teacher again gives the student, first of all, the positive feedback to prize their students. And only after that, the teacher should do what? The teacher should find out those points that were not a little bit correct, so to correct them. And in the practice one, you recycle it again. What do you do? So the teacher conducts practice of new words, phrases, and patterns occurring in the data, either during or after the analysis. So what does the teacher do? So from the very beginning, when he gave them the instruction, so if the teacher found out something during the cycling the task, so he can help them with giving more information. So of course, except of grammar, but sometimes grammar also can be, it depends on teachers. So are there questions? The next one is, let's see. Of course, you can send you the presentation. So task-based learning tasks, what they can be. Mostly the task-based learning tasks can be except of grammar instructions. Yeah, target language, they can be different. And the task-based learning task aim is to communicate, as we said from the very beginning, is to communicate. The tasks of the task-based learning approach is to improve students' confidence, their interaction, and being them fluent. As it was mentioned in the chat at the very beginning, what is the purpose of the teacher? It is them to communicate when they are in foreign countries. Yeah. So through this task-based learning approach, when the teacher gave them or gives them the task, so they learn the vocabulary, the new language of the target language, the topic that you're giving them. So, and somehow during doing the task-based learning approach, students can develop their specific linguistic form. It means when they speak, when they work in groups, they have to know what tense to use, which preposition to use, in order to be clear to the audience when they are reporting their task. So of course there are input and output, and input-based task and output-based task, they both are very important. So the input-based task, as you see here, pay attention to a particular grammatical structure, and the output-based task is the opportunity corrective feedback. It means that meaning of the language. And the input, we give the particular grammatical structure. Second one is the meaning of the language. So let's say, can you please bring any bright working example task-based learning which can be easily adapted for elementary level class? Of course, yes. So you can look at your syllabus. What is the language that you're teaching for your elementary level? And of course, as I mentioned, for elementary level, you can bring according to the topics that they have. According to that, you can give them what? Task where they can work with their where they can work in groups. So if you have your syllabus, according to your syllabus, you choose the topics where you know that students can improve themselves or can work themselves, and you can take that task, that unit tasks for what? For your task-based learning approach. So you do not use the PPP, you do not use the TTT, you give them the task-based learning approach. So you can take the topic, which is very clear for students, and you know that your students can manage with that kind of topic. So let's see next, the main part. What are the advantages and disadvantages of task-based learning approach? Now let's see, can you please look at this slide? And I have here the words, I mean, I have written them like one word. Can you please find out, how many words are here and what are they? And you can write them in the chart. So what are the advantages and disadvantages? There's some words, can you please?
Participants, if you want to unmute yourself and answer to these questions, you can do that.
You can write in the chat. Okay, the advantages are what? Motivation, of course, cooperation, meaningful interaction, experience, and exploration. Very good. These are the advantages of the task-based learning approach. And what are the disadvantages? Okay, again, there are some words which are written as like one word. If some students, for example, they are lack of vocabulary or they're shy, some students, they do not want to speak. So this kind of approach can be disadvantage for them. So they always want the speaker to, the teacher to speak, the others to work, but not themselves. Okay, so what is it? Cause barriers. It can be used to promote critical thinking. Carefully planned. Okay. It should be carefully planned by the teacher. And what else? It takes longer time to plan the lesson. And when you're in class, yes, if you want for example, planning the task 5 minutes, it takes you 7 minutes. Of course, it's very difficult. And the last one is scaffolding. Yeah. So now again, what are the advantages and disadvantages of task-based learning? So the advantages are your students are motivated. So you do not write a grammar instruction or grammar task on the board and ask your students to do it. I mean, they manipulate the language, but the students, what do? They do it with the great pleasure when they work in group and when they want to speak in English, if there is no English language outside the classroom. Because if you have 1 hour English lesson, so that during the day they speak only 1 hour in English, so it gives them the opportunity to speak in English. And of course, the advantages is also cooperation. So students start cooperating with each other. And during cooperation with each other, they get the language from each other, even if it is not clear, but somehow they get it. So the disadvantages of task-based learning approach is what? It is very difficult to use this approach for students. It is easy to work with the PPP presentation, presentation practice and production of the language. It is easy to work with the TTT test for students, teach them, then test them again. It is easier to work with the project-based learning, but the task-based learning is a little bit difficult. That's why I think teachers find out that there are more disadvantages than advantages, because you have to know what to do, and you also have to have on the topic that you're giving to your students, you have to have enough knowledge. So in order for the lesson to be to be interesting and motivated, because while the students are working on the task that you're giving them, so they may ask you questions. And if the level is, we can say starter, or we can say beginner, elementary, pre-intermediate, so it is easier. But if the levels are higher, so for that, the teacher should do what? The teacher should have enough knowledge on the task that they are giving to their learners. So these were the advantages and disadvantages of task-based learning. But what's about me? I don't see any disadvantage in task-based learning because it motivates students. And before ending our presentation, so there I was asking a question at the very beginning. There are 3 good reasons why teachers want to be, why people want to be teacher. So the answer is here. you can look at it. There are 3 good reasons to be a teacher. What are they? There are June, July, and August. So it means that only teachers have 3 months of what? Holiday. And I think that most of you are on holiday now, and enjoy your holiday. And during June, July, and August, teachers can gain and they may participate in different, we can say, courses. They fulfill themselves, and from the new academic year of the year, they can start their lessons with energy, and they can use maybe this kind of approach in their lessons. Thank you very much. It was nice to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ganjina. So I can see there are so many comments in the chat box, and of course, like our audience has already asked some questions there. But anyway, now the presentation part of the webinar is over, and we open the floor for questions and answers. Thank you for sharing your experience, and of course, like we welcome your opportunities and also your experience. If you have ever tried TBL and you know about the pros and cons of those, because the webinar platform is not only for sharing the knowledge between the speaker, but also between the speaker and the participants as well. So please feel free to share your experience. And so if you have any questions, please use the chat box or comment box on Facebook. So we'll be addressing them to our speaker today. Thank you, Ganjina.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the question
Thank you
from
so
Parvina.
much.
Yeah, she's asking, what is the main difference between TBL and PBT?
Uh,
And she says that she usually mixes them.
so why do you mix them? What is the reason of mixing them? So you use the project there, yes?
Parvina, please unmute yourself and share your experience.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, dear. Nice to see you, DVB team. So I so missed these webinars. I was really busy till the very start of this year due to some circumstances, but I hopefully to join every single workshop starting from this week, and happy to see you again. And here I had the question. I joined this webinar because I'm really interested in task-based teaching, or just the way of teaching this method, because I'm usually confused in using PBT, project-based learning, and task-based learning. Sometimes I think that these are two similar methods, but what is the main difference? Is it the same thing? I mean, it's really tough for me to teach TBL because I tried it several times, but it was unluckily, yes, it didn't work, I guess. So maybe I'm not really good professional in teaching through TBL method. That's why I'm really interested in it. In project-based learning, I mean PBT, PBL, I usually conduct some activities where students need to do something on their own. I mean, some projects, they do some research, find information, just present that information and something like this. And TBL is task-based learning, as far as I know. Is it the same thing like project-based learning? Here's my question.
Let's see, Parvina, yeah. So let's see, Parvina, task-based learning and project-based learning approach, they are totally different things. So task-based learning approach is a really difficult approach. Why? Because depending on the level, students may have, sometimes, they may have more information on the task that are given than the teacher or than the instructor. It happens. And most teachers do not want to use this kind of approach. It's better to use the PPP, or we can say PBL, yeah? So in task-based learning, as I mentioned, while you're giving the task to students, you have to know the level of your students, the knowledge of your students. So your task is to develop their language in that specific area of the, we can say, situation that you're choosing. So, and it is only the task that mostly students do in class. What's about project-based learning? Project-based learning, so we know what is the word project. Yeah, so the very simple thing, task and project. When they do the project, so there they have the task. So when it is project-based learning, works for me, in project-based learning, students can work out of the class. So the project is longer, the project-based learning is longer than the task-based learning. So how? So the project-based learning can have, you can give to your students, for example, 1 week of preparation. See, so they may work 3 or 4 students in one group, and you give them the task. For example, if you had, for example, the topic on museums, you ask your students to give them different museums, how many museums you have in your city or country. I mean, not country, in the city, the place where you live. So you give them the task to go to those museums, and you give them the specific task, what do they have to do? And while they go there, they gather the information, it becomes kind of project, and they all together cooperate with each other. So out of the classroom, and they bring the information to the classroom and they present it. So the task-based learning, they're a little bit, I mean, they're shorter, and they're mostly done in class. So there I see the task-based learning and the project-based learning. So in the project-based learning, sometimes the students may have 1 month of preparation. Sometimes they have, for example, 1 day of preparation. So when you give them kind of project that they have to do it, for example, you give them the kind of homework. But if you give them the project-based learning in class, so beforehand, you have to give them the task to do first in order to do the project-based learning in class. So they have to come with the information to the class. They have to find out kind of resources, different resources, in order to complete the project-based learning. So this is the difference. So project-based learning is a little bit longer, and the task-based learning is a little bit shorter, and most of the task-based learning is done in class. Project-based learning can be done out of the class and to be brought into class.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear teacher Ganjina. So really nice answer. I'm really satisfied. And I know just the main difference is one is the longer and the next is shorter. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your request.
So if there are any other questions, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
I have a question, Ganjina, if you don't mind. So how these 2 approaches, task-based learning, and project-based learning, should be used by teachers? So for example, we know that for different level, sometimes in a different level classroom, project-based learning can be really tough because, like, since the students have different levels and not follow all of them, it would be comfortable. Yeah. What would you recommend in multi-level classrooms? Which one is better to use?
So all approaches are good to use. It depends on teacher and on students you have. And project-based learning approach is good. Why? First, it is, so I have worked during my, we can say, experience that I have got with the project-based learning. So you can, those students who are not good at language, So students who are lazy, students who are shy, you can have a mixed group of students, and you may give them the task on project-based learning. And those good students who are in the project-based learning, they work in a project that they have to present in the class. So the good students can make we can say, we don't say bad students, we can say that with shy, or we can say students who do not work, lazy students. So they make them to work, and they have to share among them. So who has to do what? So it makes them to be responsible for their tasks, you see? So task-based learning, when you give the task to students in class, so students, it happens the same. So you make the same group, that good students, and you can say, you can't say not good students, but students who are a little bit lazy, they shy, they always prefer to work on their own. So you may put them together and they can work in class. So both are good. It always depends on so sometimes you write on the board the name of the topic, and you look at your students' eyes and you see some of them are happy, some of them are not. So some topics are interesting for students, some topics are not interesting. So you do not have to look individually at your students, you have to look through generally, you can say general view of the group, and you give them the topic and give them, according to the topic, to give them a task that could motivate them, that can make them to speak. So both are okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, dear audience, if any more questions left from your side, please let us know. Okay. All right. So if no questions, yeah, once again, we convey our deepest gratitude to our speaker today. Ganjina, we were very happy to host you, and we hope that there will be more future collaborations, and you will share again from your extensive teaching experience. And also, please be informed that our webinar is watched not only and attended not only by teachers from Tajikistan, but also from teachers from other countries. And if you can see, some of our audience are from different countries, and yeah, we are building this community on a global level. So we keep the doors open for all who want to have this experience of teacher professional development through our webinars as well. Yeah, thank you so much, dear all, for your active participation. And please don't forget to follow us on social media. And we have very great announcements coming soon. And once again, Ganjina, it was a pleasure to host you today. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. You're welcome.